Greetings, Zimbabwe. Welcome to the program Power Talk. My name is Sean Moyo. On the program today, we have a very familiar face, a prominent politician in Zimbabwe. Needs no introduction, but I will introduce. He is Mr. Douglas Mwonzora. He is the leader of the MDC. I'm not sure if I should say leader or interim leader or perhaps a de facto leader. I'm not too sure. I'm confused, Mr. President. May you please explain to us who you are to the MDC.
Well, I am the president of the MDC, undisputed. This is because I was elected as president at the extraordinary Congress of 2020. And I was elected again as president when I was nominated and opposed on the 20th of November 2022.
Right.
By the time we got to the Congress of December 2022, I was already president, re-elected president. No court case has nullified my nomination unopposed. And where you are nominated unopposed, then you are declared duly elected. And this is what has happened. But at any rate, after the judgment that you hear about, judgment of Joe J, which is basically a meaningless judgment because it simply says the Congress of 2022, 18 December 2022, is nullified. And then it ends there. It does not have consequential provisions. For example, to say the Congress is nullified, the presidency is also nullified. It doesn't say that. Now, if you go to the judgment of the Supreme Court of 2020, it nullifies the election of Chamisa and Mudzuri, and it goes on to say
The appointment.
and then it goes on to say that Thokozani Kupe must call for a fresh Congress, an extraordinary Congress.
Right.
And if Kupe is not able to do that, then Morgan Komichi must do that. But what is important is that in the aftermath of the Joe judgment, an officer called the Arbiter General of the MDC, appointed in terms of Article 18 of the Constitution, wrote an opinion. Now, an opinion of the Arbiter General in the MDC Constitution is binding on all members. And the effect of his opinion was that in the aftermath of the Joe judgment, then we resort to the leadership as elected at the Extraordinary Congress. That is the leadership a day before the Congress. And unfortunately for my detractors, that leader elected at the Extraordinary Congress is myself. So those who thought that by going with this Joe judgment, they were getting rid of a president, a democratically elected one, they were mistaken. But just about a week ago, the National Council of the MDC set. And the National Council of the MDC is the highest decision-making body outside Congresses. It met and reiterated and accepted the opinion of the Arbiter General, and it reiterated who the president was. Now, if you see people who are hopeful within the MDC right now, none of them was ever elected. These people were appointed by myself. So, for example, Engineer Mudzuri was appointed after the Extraordinary Congress. He was of 2020. He was appointed by myself in the National Council. If you look at Marara, for example, he was appointed as Secretary for Project by myself. If you look at Shakespeare Mukoi, he was appointed by myself. And at any rate, what the National Council has done is to settle the issues. It has said that the leadership is such and so is the leader. It has gone on to say that those people who have raided the Harvest House and thrown the party into turmoil and aided the government, because the government is fighting us, because we are fighting against the 2030 agenda. So the MDC is being punished, and that is why you will see that when the clashes happened between the invaders and our security, the police were very quick to arrest our security. And right now we have 4 in prison right now: Mwonzora, Marvin Maganga, Patson Freddy, and Norman Mgweni. They are languishing in prison right now, almost more than a month now after their arrest. And guess what? Today we learned that the police has not yet recorded the statements of its key witness, who is supposed to be an employee of the MDC at MRT House. Now, MRT House is about 300 meters from the police station. So for 1 month, they have not been able to record a statement. What that means is that, of course, the so-called key witness has turned hostile, or has developed less spine. But what is important is that the MDC is very, very clear on its opposition to the 2030 agenda. And no amount of force, no amount of lawfare, no amount of deprivation of property will dissuade us from that stance. It's a stance of my party, it's a stance of the National Council, and the National Council has just reiterated it. But I want to give our people good news. We are going to take back the Harvest House. It's a question of time. We are going to take it back, and we are going to resume our fight against the 2030 agenda.
But a question related to that, you insinuate that your opponents within the party are sponsored by Zanu-PF. So now it seems like it's a trend basically in the opposition, whereby when opposition politicians are fighting, they tend to accuse each other of being sponsored by Zanu-PF. Like, is there any veracity to this particular sponsorship, or is just a way of tarnishing each other's image?
Well, in this particular instance, it is the opponents themselves who boast that they are being sponsored by Zanu-PF.
They do.
Yes, they do. And they do that in the groups. And at one time, one of the people who speak for my opponents is a member of Zanu-PF. His name is Edward Wakai. Edward Wakai is a son-in-law of Blessing Chebundo. As you know, Blessing Chebundo crossed over to Zanu-PF, and he is leading a program in Zanu-PF called KHE, Kumba Home Ekaya. And this program aims at taking people from the opposition, especially from the MDC, to Zanu-PF. His brother, his son-in-law, is in the groups of the MDC, supporting the opponents and telling people that Zanu-PF is going to deal with Mwonzora and so on. So it's something that they say. I know for certain that some of my opponents tried to approach the CIO for funding in November, which is a stupid thing to do, because in November the government has no money. They tried to go there to ask for money, and unfortunately they were not able to find it. But I know also, and this I still have to verify to the extent to which it is completely accurate, that they've approached the faction of Vice President Chiwenga in the Zanu-PF, and they've asked for funding. And they are saying that they want Chiwenga to fund them so that they fight the 2030 agenda. They fight against the 2030 agenda. I am told that they've tried to reach the faction of President Mnangagwa. And they have then said to that faction that they are going to support, they want money to support the 2030 agenda. This is the confused nature of the people who are trying to destabilize the party. But these people are not their own men and women. They are being externally funded, they are being externally sponsored, and it is because of the stance we have taken. Number one, 2030 agenda. Number two, we have demanded reparations for all victims of political violence, including the 2008 political violence. And we have said that the President Mnangagwa's party, as government, must pay compensation for these people. It has got a lot of people within the establishment very, very mad. But look at it this way. the Zimbabwe is a democracy. We have the right to think differently, to see things differently. Now, if we differ and then we resort to closing each other's headquarters, what does it mean about our democracy? So, this is a message to Zanu-PF. We know what they are doing. We know it is unfair. We also know that there is manipulation of the justice system so that MDC does not get justice at all. Even in the most deserving of cases, objectively winnable cases, the courts are not throwing the cases away. They are not granting them, they are simply striking them off the roll, meaning neither granted nor, nor denied. So you stay in a state of limbo. But what the judges are saying is that this case has got merit, but we can't give judgment. And this is a strange system of justice. We have talked about the pilferage of our mineral resources uh, by some nationals, some nationals of other countries who are taking our raw lithium, gold, platinum to develop their countries right in front of our eyes. And we as the MDC are opposed.
Right. In the case in which you say your opponents were held or they claim to have been held by the state or members of the state to capture your headquarters, if I track back a few years when you assumed leadership of the party, where after that famous Supreme Court judgment, which stripped Nelson Chamisa and Mudzuri of their appointment, you took over the headquarters, and your opponents then, who then later on formed Triple C, claimed that you got assisted by the state to the point where even armed soldiers helped you take over Harvest House. And now it seems the same claim you are now making. I'm not sure how we can relate that.
The difference, Sean, is that my opponents relating to the taking over of our taking over of the Harvest House used a video clip of soldiers in 2018. By the way, we took the Harvest House in May 2020. So they used a clip which showed soldiers at Likwenda House, which is 60 meters from the Harvest House, in 2008 to justify the propaganda that had been used by the police. But the difference is that in terms of the law, where somebody grabs something from you, you are allowed to then and there grab it back. It is what is called counter spoliation. So when our guys were in the middle of counter spoliation, the police came and arrested our people, and did not arrest the invaders who had kidnapped a woman worker, Mrs. Sazera, for 5.5 hours. Now, just imagine that a woman has been closed in a building with 20 strange men. What would we do? We would want to rescue the woman. So when we were trying to rescue the woman, the police arrested our people. So this is clear help from the state. And to make matters worse, unlike the Triple C, when we tried to have our national council at Mwonzora Lodge, the police came and disrupted it. Now, in terms of MOPA, public gatherings require notification of the police, except in terms of Section 2, except if they are gatherings of an organ or structure of a political party. It is not considered a public. It's exempted. Despite advising the police that this is exempted, and by the way, we wrote to the Commissioner General, we wrote to the DISPO, we wrote to the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, just out of the abundance of caution that we are having our meeting. It is the National Council meeting, and it is exempted. They still went on to disrupt it. Of course, we were able to do it elsewhere, and we managed to have a resolution. But what I'm happy about is that the highest decision-making board of the MDC has made a decision, and no one has challenged this decision. The minutes are there. The attendance register is there, which shows that this was one of the best attended meetings of the National Council. And they came and lent support to us to say that they support the president's fight against the desecration of the constitution, and that those people who were invading the Harvest House were disturbing this fight, and that they knew that these people were sponsored.
Right. When you speak of counter-spoliation, where you wanted to rescue the unfortunate lady as well as some of your members who were kidnapped or allegedly kidnapped, do you think perhaps you would have sort of usurped the powers of the police, that maybe the channels that you use, you probably would have wanted to go to the police and let them do the rescue, but then you took the law into your own hands? Do you think that there's a possibility that you actually sent?
Counter-spoliation does not involve a third party. A person dispossessed is entitled to repossess within the heat of the moment. So this was 10 minutes after
The incident.
the incident.
Right.
And our people actually went to the police, who were there, by the way, conveniently there. And they said, we have somebody trapped inside. The dispo who was there said, you can rescue your person. And it was in the middle of the rescue that these people got arrested. And the police went on to lie in court. They went on to doctor court papers to say these people were running away from the police. But they arrested them at the scene, you know. So this is the hallmark of being used by Zanu-PF and the state taking sides. For, had it not been taking sides, they would not have banned or disrupted the meeting of the National Council. They knew that the National Council was in support of our stance, and they wanted to help these people. Unfortunately for them, these invaders do not have support at all within the party, and that is why you see they have not held any meeting. The biggest meeting they held had 5 people, excluding journalists, of course. They had 5 people, and they did not have courage. They have tried to upset the constitution of the MDC to say they are removing the National Standing Committee, which is elected, and replacing it with a steering committee. Now, in terms of the MDC constitution, we don't have anything called the steering committee. And then they are removing the provincial executives and replacing them with provincial caretaker councils, which are unelected. And then they are removing the district executives and trying to replace them with district caretaker committees. Now, if you go to the constitution of the MDC, it does not have anything called the caretaker committee. It does not have anything called the steering committee. We are not forming the party for the first time. The party has been there for over 20 years. And now, they argue that they want a Congress. Now, this is something that we are willing to give them if they want the Congress. But I tell you, the result of the Congress will be the same, because these people do not enjoy support. And if you go to their history, they have never been elected. Engineer Mudzuri has never won an election, an internal election.
Was he not the organizing secretary before 2014?
By appointment, never by election.
Right.
And he was made vice president by that infamous appointment.
Right.
He was made vice president again by me, by appointment.
Right.
Now, in 2020, Engineer Mudzuri scored 14 votes, and I scored 888 votes. And by some logic which appeals to them, they want somebody with 14 votes to take over from somebody with 888 votes. Absolutely unreasonable. But the good news for the country is that this is not a split, it is a splinter, because this is a very small segment of people. They tried to force the tenants to give them money for rent. Unfortunately, they could not succeed. They tried to go to the bank to change the signatures at the bank, to freeze the bank account. They've hit a brick wall now. And right now they are sitting in Harvest House, hungry and without any money, which is what they wanted to have. So they are going to starve in Harvest House. We are going to reclaim at the moment of our choosing. But I want to assure you that that moment is coming. We have already laid out plan A, plan B, and plan C.
Right. It would seem the lot of the people who are opposed to you are, I would say, prominent names within the MDC and the opposition for the past, 2 decades that we've been in existence. I've seen there's Senator Mudzuri. There's I'm not sure if Akomichi is there. Then there's Norris Marara, I believe. Then there's Shumba as well, right? Um, so I'm not too sure if the optics serve well for the party, that it would seem very senior members are opposed to you. So even if you are to reclaim the headquarters and you reclaim your leadership, or perhaps you reassert your leadership, as it were, what impact do you think it will have on the party, having, number one, this magnitude of fighting which goes physical, and then number two, having so many senior members seem to be in disagreement with you and in disapproval of your leadership?
Well, because they are competitors, Sean. These are people who want to be president as well, right, and who can't wait. And these are people who do not respect merit. And merit, in the sense of the MDC, is then recognized by the number of votes you score in a democratic process. We had democratic processes. Extraordinary Congress was a democratic process, and they lost. We had the nomination process, where they could not even get a single nomination. And by the way, the person who was chairing the nomination process was Morgan Comich. He did the nomination process and he declared me nominated, unopposed, and therefore duly elected. And we do have videos to that extent. And Mr. Marara could not even get a nomination. Mudzuri couldn't get a nomination. Komich couldn't get a nomination. Now, when we talk of the party, we are not talking about prominent figures or people who speak loudly. We are talking about the majority. And the majority of the MDC is unequivocal on its stance on me as their leader. They have told me that they are going to stand with me all the way. And they have said it is not the duty of Zanu-PF to choose a leader for them. They want to choose their own leader. And they are going to stick with their own leader. It is not up to Zanu-PF to say, don't speak about this, don't speak about 2030. Please don't, because if we do, we will take away Harvest House. Our people are saying MDC determines its own political agenda and its own political messages. That is why we are in opposition. So what Zanu-PF is trying to do is to gag us as the opposition. Even if, Mr. Mwonzora, you are the constitution maker, do not speak against this. Even where I see that the constitution is being desecrated. And I dare challenge Sean that if Zanu-PF thinks it is a popular agenda in the 2030, let's go to referendum. They will lose, and my prediction is that they will lose. The no vote will win by over 80%, because half, if not 3/4 of Zanu-PF are not going to vote for the 2030 agenda. They may give all these vehicles to people, but the people are not going to vote for the desecration of the constitution. We have not insulted anyone. We have not insulted Mnangagwa at all, because had I done that, I would have been prosecuted. I have opposed him. I have opposed him on principle. I want him as president of this country to come up in the open and defend the constitution, which is what he swore to do, and which is what he is obliged to do in terms of Section 90 of the Constitution. Section 90 says the principal duty of the president is to defend and respect the Constitution of Zimbabwe.
Some have said, including one of your opponents, Engineer Mudzuri, when I spoke to him, he said, as far as he believes, 2030 is a non-event. It's a red herring, as he would have put it. That it's just a diversionary tactic that Zanu-PF is using. In your view, do you think it's a red herring, or do you really think the ruling party means this?
There are people in Zanu-PF who want the 2030 agenda.
Right.
There is no question about that.
Right.
And there are people in Zanu-PF who don't want it. So which of the two factions will prevail, it is difficult to say.
Right.
So it is not a red herring at all. It is real and it has to be fought. Engineer Mudzuri wants us to fold our hands while our constitution is being desecrated. What if it succeeds? What if Zanu-PF succeeds? Why should we keep quiet when the constitution is being desecrated? What he is in fact doing is he is supporting the 2030 agenda. In fact, some of the leaders in the MDC have been sold a dummy. And the dummy was that there will be a GNU. You will be accommodated. The Senate will be extended from 81 votes to 100 votes, 81 seats to 100 seats. That dummy has been sold to them. And some of them, most of whom were in the parliament, are missing parliament. And they think that there could be a cheaper ticket to parliament to enjoy the spoils. And in the process, sell out the people of Zimbabwe. That we have refused to do. If there are going to be negotiations, political negotiations, let them happen while we retain our freedom of conscience. And it is our deep conscience that our constitution must be preserved, right, and that we must defend it.
Yes, and seeing at the moment that the first port of call for amending the constitution would be parliament, and as it stands, the MDC, by virtue of the outcome of the previous election, 2023, is not in parliament. Why would Zanu-PF fight so hard with MDC, which is not going to be voting in parliament, or which is not going to participate, at least legally, within the house? That is, why would the fight be so vicious towards the MDC?
Yeah, because the MDC is leading the national consciousness to reject the amendments.
Right.
So parliamentary vote for the amendment is totally irrelevant.
Right.
Because even if the parliament votes yes, it will still have to come to the referendum. Right. And the MDC has hit the national consciousness in rejecting this. And they know that if the MDC is let to be, then Zimbabweans will reject. That is why they would go to disrupt our meeting in Blawayo, for example. They would go on to ban our meeting in Chiredzi. We were only able to do it a month later. And after this shadowing group called Boys Zamdara, we are phoning people threatening violence. If we were inconsequential, they wouldn't do that. But we have the knowledge, we have the experience, and we have the people on our side to say, let's reject this. Our people simply need leadership, and we are providing that leadership. Now, I have said that the parliamentary vote will be irrelevant. But let me just add that if we had a genuine opposition in parliament, they would defeat the 2030 agenda right there at parliament. It is possible.
With the numbers we have right now.
Exactly. The common mistake that people are making is that Zanu-PF has 2/3 majority in parliament.
Right.
No, Zanu-PF does not have 2/3 majority in parliament. It has 2/3 majority.
when we speak about selling out, right? There was a moment in time when you were still in Parliament. You were the leader of the House in Parliament there, and there was that infamous. I'm not sure if it's called the Second Amendment or it's the first one, which removed the term limits for the Chief Justice, as well as removed the presidential running mate. And your party or yourself as the leader particularly is blamed for having supported that amendment.
No, no, that was propaganda shown. That was being peddled by the Triple C. And there's one way of just resolving this question of fact. Did Mr. Mwonzora support the Second Amendment or not? And the record is there. The record is there in the Hansard, where I fought hard to stop the Second Amendment, especially the amendment of the running mate clause and the amendment of the age limit of the Chief Justice, not the term limit.
Right.
It was the age
Right,
limit.
right, yes.
And the Supreme Court, the Constitutional Court, went on to rule that the amendment of the age, the amendment of the age limit clause is not the same as amendment of the term limit clause. It did that in the Mupungu case. And it went on to say the clause that is a term limit clause is clause 95 of the Constitution. That is the presidential term limit clause. So the Triple C and the propagandists went on to blame me for amendment number 2 when I fought tooth, claw, and nail with Minister Ziyambi in the Senate. And the record exists that I did not support it, I fought against it, and did not vote for it. And how people voted is their own record,
Including your members
including our members.
who supported the
Yes.
by vote.
Yes. Now, the question was, why didn't I not punish the members for voting? And there were 2 reasons. Number 1, members of parliament vote by their conscience. It's there in the Constitution. But number 2, what the minister had done was to put a carrot. And the carrot was that there will be an extension of the women's quota, that there was going to be a youth quota in parliament, and that there was going to be proportional representation for women in the local government. All those were attractive, and those are MDC clauses and so on. But it is different from what we are waging now. What we are waging now is to say the president must abide by his oath. He must abide by his oath, which says, I shall uphold and defend the Constitution of Zimbabwe. If he doesn't uphold or defend it, those of us who see it are justified to oppose him. But what we are seeing is that in opposing him, the state is punishing us. It's punishing the MDC for exercising its conscience, for opposing, for being in opposition. They want to create a de facto one-party state.
There was a proposition put forward by several lawyers, among them Tawanda Nyambirai, I should believe, I stand guided, as well as Professor Jonathan Moyo, which proposes that the presidential term limit is not particularly defined in the Constitution, that it can be extended, as in the actual number of years the president serves. We believe it's 5 years, but they said, I'm not too sure if it's Section 95, which is supposed to define the number of years. And they seem to propose that it's possible to use that very section to actually extend the president's term without needing to change the term limits.
They are very wrong, and this is why. If you go to the Constitution, it is 2 sections, or let's say 2 groups of sections,
Right.
that it talks of term limit. Section 90 to 95, and then we jump. Then we go to section 328.
Right.
Now, section 91 says no one must serve more than 2 terms. And then section 95 defines what a term is, and it says it's 5 years. So I don't understand what Nyambire means when he says the term is not defined. It's so defined in clear terms. A presidential term shall be 5 years co-terminus with the term of parliament, meaning that it runs simultaneously with the term of parliament. So that is a section up to section 95. Now, what their argument is that if you extend the term of the president from 5 years to 7 years, it is still one term. And if it is 7 years plus 7 years, it is still two terms. Or in President Mnangagwa's instance, if it is 5 years and 7 years, it is still two terms. They ignore section 328. Section 328 starts with the definition of what a term limit clause is. And it says a term limit clause is a clause that lengthens the period of time that a person is in office. You can notice, Sean, that it is not using the term term. It is talking of the length of time. So if you are extending from 5 years to 7 years, you are lengthening the period of time that a person is in office. And it goes on to say, section 328, that if you want to amend the Bill of Rights, you go for referendum. It goes on to say again, and I'm paraphrasing, if you want to amend a term limit clause, then you amend it as if you are amending the Bill of Rights.
So referendum again.
So it's i.e. by referendum. So the simple question that Nyambira and Moyo must answer is whether section 95 is a term limit clause. Yes, of course it is, because it prescribes the term limit. Then it goes on to say in 328 subsection 7 that even if the term limit were to be extended, it shall not benefit the incumbent. And it goes on to say that if you want to amend this section 328, then you amend it as if you are amending the Bill of Rights. So 328 is self-preserving. So there is no legal way. I heard the Minister of Justice, Minister Ziyambi, I think in one of the meetings, trying to say that the movement from 5 to 7 years is permissible. No, Minister Ziyambi, it is not. Go to section 328, read it using what we call the grammatical meaning. And it says a term limit clause is a clause that lengthens the period of time. So absolutely no brainer what Nyambira with respect and Moyo are saying.
You have been the leading voice against the 28 agenda, and no one can deny that it's on record. There have been others who have spoken up as well, but definitely you have been the leading light in opposing this the Zanu-PF plan to extend the presidential term. But there was a meeting of several parties recently. I'm sure it was under the auspices of the Surplus Trust, where they had a bunch of political parties and leaders or politicians, some individual, some from parties, coming together. Given the fact that you are an opposition leader, number one, a prominent one, number two, and most importantly, that you were the co-author of the Constitution, why is it that you seemed to have not been involved in this particular initiative when possibly within the opposition you could be the most knowledgeable when it comes to the Constitution?
Well, that question is best answered by Dr. Ibo Mandaza.
Right.
Dr. Ibo Mandaza does not like the MDC. Historically, he doesn't like it. That is why he supported the presidency, the candidature of Dr. Makon. When it stood to reason that people should rally behind Changra and the MDC, we would have beaten Mugabe. We would not have gone to a runoff. We would not have lost 300 of our finest youngsters had they not taken that decision. They took that decision to spite the MDC. So you will notice that when it comes to meetings of the Surplus Trust, we are rarely invited, despite that we are knowledgeable about the subject matter, that we have talked about it, we have taken a stance as a political party. But having said that, I want the opposition to be very careful not to be divided. All those people who think the same about this subject must work together. And that is why we are prepared to work with Scala, BT, Maduku, Masarira, and all these opposition figures to defeat this evil that is coming into the country. Our people must understand that if we allow this amendment, it will open dangerous national precedent. The next time somebody is going to need to want more, and we go on and on and on ad infinitum until we have a dictatorship in this country. But this clause is meant to entrench one party state. It is also being sponsored by some of the most corrupt people in this country who are enjoying the wealth on behalf of the masses, who are benefiting from the opaqueness of our economic system. They are doing that because it benefits them. They are building houses in Mount Pleasant, Vinona, Borodale, and so on. But the common man is not enjoying the mineral wealth of this country. So we need to be very careful, and I urge Zimbabweans to unite with the MDC to fight against the 23rd agenda.
And perhaps lastly on this particular topic of the 23rd agenda, if I may be the devil's advocate, right, and say the ruling party, Zanu-PF, has the right to propose a constitutional amendment or even to extend the term of the presidency, and they are simply exercising their democratic right to do so, would that not be acceptable?
Well, Sean, it's the same as everybody has a democratic right to advocate for neighbor. You know, it's morally reprehensible as an argument. It is irresponsible for a party with the president who has taken oath to defend the constitution to help him break that constitution. It is irresponsible. It is irresponsible for a governing party to want to change the constitution. Constitutions shown are built out of the distrust of politicians.
Right.
They are a covenant with the people. They are a contract with the people. And that is why they have to be changed with the consent of the people. So what Zanu-PF is trying to do is to want very much to avoid a referendum. They are trying to avoid the referendum because they want to win against the people. If they think that it is a popular thing, let them subject it to referendum. What do they lose? Except that they know what the people think. The people in Zanu-PF, across the political divide, all the right-thinking people, all the people who are not benefiting from the state capture or from these shady deals, people who can donate cars from nowhere, all those people will support. But people who are not getting all these benefits do not support the term limit. And when one opposes the term limit, one is not insulting Mr. Mnangagwa at all, as I have heard some Zanu-PF people say that you have insulted the president by advocating what he doesn't want to hear. I am not there to tell Mr. Mnangagwa what he wants to hear. I am there to tell the people of Zimbabwe what I know is the responsible thing to do. And that is what we are doing and will continue to do.
Right. You used to advocate for what you termed as a rational disputation, where you wanted to engage with the ruling party as opposed to perhaps confrontation in whatever form it will come. Is that still the position of the MDC, or it has changed?
That is still the position. We are for rational disputation. We are for dialogue. And that's why we are open. If Zanu-PF wants us to discuss this issue, we are prepared to talk to them. We are prepared to discuss with them. But what they are doing is to use force against us, to use extrajudicial powers against us. And that is very, very unfair. We may be smaller than them. We may be um, not wielding the organs of force, but they can't take away our conscience. They can't take away our sense of responsibility. And the sense of responsibility is that a country must have a constitution, and the constitution must be respected. And the constitution must be defended. Be defended, number one, by the head of state, number two, by the ruling party. And then, when all that fails, the people of Zimbabwe will defend it.
A very interesting question I came across quite recently. I'm not sure if I can say it's a question or it's more of a comment. Someone said if Mwonzora, if Zanu-PF approaches him, and given the level and the state of patronage happening right now in the country, if a number of cars are donated and a few millions are passed around, he may change his position. Can you tell Zimbabweans, are you going to stand by this position regardless, or they will see a change at some point in the future?
They will not see a change, because I believe that what is right for the people of Zimbabwe is to have a constitution that is durable, and to have a country that is respected across the world. That is worth more than the millions that Shoni are talking about. But it did happen in my previous life, that I was fighting the Political Parties Fund Act. I think that was around, if I'm not mistaken, I may mislead people about. That was 1994 to 1997. I was fighting the Political Parties Finances Act. And it then, I was being underestimated because I was one of the youngest lawyers, and nobody gave me a chance to win that case. But as time went on, some people thought I could win. Somebody came with 100,000 United States dollars for me to drop the case. I was in Mashingo that time, and to give you an idea of 100,000 to a lawyer who is 27 years old, I was 27 years old. I had been newly married, and I was trying to acquire assets of life, a house, a car, and so on, and thinking of the future of my children. I refused the 100,000. Now, the 100,000 that they offered me in 1997 is probably 5 million compared to this account. I don't want dirty money. I don't want to enrich myself at the expense of our nation. We have to think about the future. I have to think about my children, my children's children, the people's children's children do matter than a few pieces of silver. Look, Judas Iscariot sold Jesus for a few pieces of silver. What was the end? We all know what the price of selling out is. How do you live with a conscience that you have sold out the people just to please yourself and your family by material things? I will be able, I can, if I work hard, I can be able to make millions through genuine business, through representing people, through other economic activities that I am able to do. So definitely Zimbabweans must know that their country is not for sale, their constitutional rights are not for sale, the MDC is genuine, and I, as Douglas Mwonzora, one of the constitution makers, I am genuine about defending what the people of Zimbabwe demanded in the outreach program. They demanded term limits. It may be that some of the people who are now enjoying in government were supporting that because they wanted to get rid of Mugabe. But when you write a constitution, also know that it's a double-edged sword. One day when you are in power, know that it is a document that was designed to limit you. And this is what is happening right now.
I'm not sure if this is a leak or it's an assumption or anything, but we move forward. I have two more questions to go, Mr. President, before we close. The second from last question regards the finances of your party. your opponents within the party who currently occupy the HQ have accused you of financial mismanagement and or of being unclear with the finances. Can you state whether the finances of the party are in the clear?
Well, it's a cheap dig at me by people who are unemployed. We have no source of income of their own, and who were depending on the party handouts. And if you look at the people who are in the Harvest House right now, they used to occupy the she and he section and put their little flea markets there, getting something like $400, $300 from the party. We stopped all that, and we said that we'll put a big tenant there whose money will be deposited into the bank account. We put in a system that was administered by Welshman Ngube when he was Secretary General, administered by Tendai BT when he was Secretary General, and administered by me when I was Secretary General. That system has not changed. And it is that the president of the party has very little to do with finances. The finances of the party are run by what is called the Finance and Administration Committee of the party. And this is a committee chaired by the Secretary General and has a number of officers. The last Finance and Administration Committee had Senator Chief Ndlovu, Vice President. He was there to supervise the Finance and Administration. It had Shakespeare Mkoyi. He was in the Finance and Administration Committee. Rhino Mashaya was in the Finance and Administration Committee. Albert Chidakwa was in the Finance and Administration Committee. These were the people running the finances of the party. And they know that the president, like myself in particular, I'm not interested in party funds. I am interested in the deployment of those funds. And, for a party like the MDC, it can't really function well with the current finances. It will be very, very inefficient. MDC is a national party, and we have been helping the party with some financial resources that I privately sourced for the party. So this is a cheap dig that they will do. I have said that they can go to the police, open a docket there, because this is what my opponents tried to do when we were going to the extraordinary Congress. Dr. Kupe, Senator Chief Ndlovu raised Mudzuri, Komichi, raised the serious financial allegations against me because they wanted me to be removed from contesting as a candidate. And that is why on the day of the Congress, they went to the police, begged the police to come to my house to arrest me, and they told the police that they could release me after Congress. So I do have their statements that they sent to the police. The police showed the statement to me. So this is just one of those things, there has not been financial mismanagement under my administration at all.
Right. And the last question would be to do with your fight with, I would say, the government perhaps, before the 2023 elections, where you fought the delimitation commission and the results that came from there. It went to the Concord, I believe, and I'm not too sure if you would have, I'm sure obviously you didn't win at that moment, but have you re-established that route to establish perhaps a better delimitation for the next elections? Where do you as a party stand in that regard? Because there's been an accusation from people that the opposition seems to relax a lot and then only sort of jump into action towards elections. So what are you doing about that particular case, and also generally how are you preparing for the next elections?
The people are correct that the opposition generally tends to talk about reforms in the proximity of the election. They are correct. One of the first laws that must be dealt with is the Constitution. And as you see, the delimitation is in the Constitution. As you know, the term limit is in the Constitution. By the way, in terms of Section 67 of the Constitution, every Zimbabwean has a right to vote. And the other section, subsection says every Zimbabwean has the right to be voted for. So it is the right of the Zimbabwean who voted in 2023, for example, to say in 2028, I want to vote. Now, if you extend the term, you are suspending his rights for 2 years. So if Mr. Mwonzora, for example, which is subsection 2, wants to contest for presidency, it is his right to contest presidency in 2028. If you are to extend that, you are suspending his rights for those 2 years. And that's why we're fighting it. But the delimitation is a case in point where the MDC was right. And the nation, especially the opposition, and even the press, conspired against the MDC to try to defeat the MDC. And that's why we were called names. You want to extend the period in which you will be in parliament. You want the elections to be postponed and so on. Some parties like the Triple C even sponsored a lawyer to go and help Zanu-PF. Well,
As a friend of the court.
As a friend of the court, the so-called amicus curiae. But importantly, we have been proven right that the delimitation report was not right. And this delimitation report also will govern the elections of 2028. And therefore, its force will visit us in 2028. If we get enough sponsorship, I want to assemble a big team, a team of lawyers, the same lawyers who argued it. I want to retain them, and we want to relaunch our application within the courts. And we don't know what it will come up with. It will come out to. But Zimbabweans must also underwrite their struggle. Those who are able to assist financially, fight these things, must assist us. Those who want to assist financially in us fighting the 2030 agenda must assist because we have to underwrite our own struggle.
And perhaps as a bonus question, if I remember well, in 2005 when the MDC split, you had a very small number in parliament at that particular moment, or a smaller number rather. You had lost the parliamentary election. And Zanu-PF was so confident that it reduced the tenure of parliament to harmonize with the presidential. And when the MDC was at its weakest, that's when actually it won the elections. Is there a likelihood that this would happen again, or it was just perhaps a novel?
If you look at the statistics right now, and this is what has got the state apparatus worried about the MDC. If you look at the press conference that we had relating to the 2023, it was online, and it had, the last time I checked, it is 260,000 views. And that being done by the MDC, it should cause people to open their eyes. And you have talked about the Twitter space, the press conference that was held by the group of political parties, Tendai BT, Sikala, etc., under Ibo Mandaza. That Twitter space attracted 2,300 people. 5 hours later, our Twitter space attracted 12,000 people. So statistics don't lie. Right now, the people are beginning to take the MDC seriously, the people of Zimbabwe. And it is a question of time. The MDC is going back to its days of glory. I am happy that there is a natural shedding of which is happening in the MDC right now. Deadwood is going away on its own. And we are going to remain, I'll be announcing the standing committee now. We are going to remain with the cream de la cream of the MDC. And the new leadership that we are going to unveil is going to be very, very exciting indeed. Young people, women, and so on. People with imagination. That's what we need now.
Perfect. As we conclude, may you perhaps address three groups of people. Number one, you address the people of Zimbabwe. Number two, members of the party, particularly, I would say, the ones who are in disagreement with you, but also those in agreement. And then lastly, obviously, the president as head of state, not as anything else.
Yes.
Yes. So firstly, members of your party.
Well, members of the MDC, our party is going through a very, very difficult time. And the problems that we have are externally engineered. They are meant to disturb our program of fighting the 2030 agenda, of being the soul of the nation, the conscience of the nation. That is what they are trying to disturb. They are making all sorts of allegations. They are being helped in some instances by the state. But this is a passing phase. No amount of use of lawfare will defeat an idea whose hour has come. We are going to reclaim our MRT house. We are going to reclaim our days of glory. And we are together going to march towards victory. And victory is certain. We beg for your conscience. We beg your fortitude. Your National Council was unequivocal about the direction of the party, and we want to thank them.
Then, of course, to the head of state.
Well, first of all, Your Excellency, the constitution of this country is not a new document to you. You were a member of the management committee of the COPAC at the time we concluded this constitution. And coincidentally, on the day we concluded, we were seated opposite one another. We passed this constitution together with section 95 of the constitution. And it is the duty of the president, as you no doubt know, to uphold and defend this constitution. It is the duty of the president to uphold and defend the interests of Zimbabwe. And you know that if we change this constitution, for whatever reason, that is tampering with the constitution, and that is opening bad precedent. You also know that other countries would not take us seriously if we desecrate our own constitution. We know of the conditionalities of the Commonwealth. We do know that. We also know about how other nations will regard us. We don't want to be remembered that way. And I'm sure, Mr. President, you have yourself pronounced yourself on this issue. First, when you talked to Christian Amanpour of the CNN, you were unequivocal that you were opposed to extension of term. You said it again, I think it was in Mtare and in other interviews. We want you to maintain that stance because it is a responsible stance to take. What the members of your party and those associated with them are trying to do is to set you up against the people of Zimbabwe. And I dare say that you must decline that invitation. It is your responsibility as the head of state to make sure this does not happen. And let it be remembered that this is your Zimbabwe. This is my Zimbabwe too. I have a right to defend my country too. I have a right to exercise my fundamental freedoms too. To the people of Zimbabwe, as we go to the festive season, I request and hope that everybody will be responsible and that everybody will come back from the holidays in one piece. We know what you are going through. We know the difficulties that you are having. You do not have enough purchasing power. You are worried about the school fees of your children next year because simply the money is not there. For the civil servants, what is called the bonus is no bonus at all, but a paltry sum, which is an insult to our people. The good days are coming. The MDC, as your party, as the vanguard of the people, is spearheading your interests. It is safeguarding your interests. We must reclaim our country. We must reclaim our national wealth. We must defend our national wealth. And lastly, we must defend our constitution. I thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next program. Thank you, Mr. President, for coming through.